Namaste and welcome to Awaken Living with Nibodhi. Recently, we started discussing the Purusharthas, the four goals of life, the four aims of human life, which are Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Our purpose, our wealth, how we sustain ourselves, Kama, pleasure, and Moksha, the realization of the self. And so if you didn't listen to the talk on Kama, on pleasure, I would recommend going back and listening to it. Today, we're discussing Artha, which is the Vedic concept of wealth. And unfortunately, Artha, or wealth, is very often misunderstood. It's often reduced to just our money or our ambition or aspirations or just plain materialism. But the Vedic concept of Artha goes so far beyond the surface idea of wealth and money alone and success alone. It deals with both spiritual wealth and material wealth. And so many people think that on the spiritual path, we need to renounce our money. We need to renounce pleasure and just focus on the spiritual. But the Vedic view is that the spiritual and material aren't two separate things. They're one and the same. It actually gives a very intelligent view of life. So what Artha truly means is wealth or value, and that is the means to support ourselves. It's the resources we need to support ourselves. And it allows life to function with stability, with safety, with nobility, with dignity. But it exists so far beyond just the material world. But we need Artha, we need wealth on the material world as well. We have a body and it needs to be sustained. The Vedic culture, the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal path, never denied the existence of the body. It was honored. The Tantric path honors the body. It's in and through the body that we experience life. It's in and through the body that we have the potential to attain moksha, spiritual realization, self-realization. So the Vedic rishis, these enlightened masters, they understood this living truth. And in that, modern science is starting to understand this as well. They've identified the vagus nerve, the psychoendocrine neurological system. All these things are Vedic concepts: prana, tejas, ojas, sattva, rajas, tamas, these things like this. Because if a body is in survival, we can't thrive. If we're in the fight, freeze, fawn, or flight state, we can't survive. We don't survive. We don't survive well. The body is sick. When we're in fear, we can't rest within ourselves. And it's difficult to understand the truth about life if we're constantly in fear, if we're constantly under stress, if we're constantly under pressure. What Artha does on a very basic material level is create safety. And then safety allows us to be regulated. And from that regulation, we have choice, and we can have conscious choice. And that's really where the material and spiritual intersect. When we're regulated, our consciousness expands. When a tree has firm roots in the soil, its branches can spread out wide. It can make flowers. It can make fruits. We're going to really deep dive today in what it looks like to balance the material and spiritual wealth. Okay. And one of the things that we have to acknowledge is that suffering does exist. The Buddha said in the Four Noble Truths that suffering exists. There's a cause of suffering, and there's a method out of that suffering. But one of the reasons that we really suffer, it's not because people lack spirituality. Everyone is spirit. Everyone is spiritual. It's because we lack the right relationship with consciousness in the material world. And for the most part, that's a societal illness. It's a societal dis-ease that's created by the societal structures that currently exist. And even religions create this. I wouldn't say a spiritual path creates this. Religion creates this in a way to control us. Okay? But even people who have material resources, they also suffer. There's millionaires, billionaires in air-conditioned palaces who are completely depressed and commit suicide. There's people who are living in abject poverty from a material standard and are living in joy and authentic love. We can have resources, but if there's no inner guidance how to use them, suffering is still there. So the suffering, it's an inside job. And freeing ourselves from suffering, because suffering sucks, is very important if we want to live a happy life. Okay? We should not reject wealth or pleasure in the name of spirituality. Okay? And we should also not chase after wealth and pleasure in the name of freedom. Both of these concepts completely miss the point of life. Wealth, material wealth, should not be the goal. Internal wealth should be the goal. But what the material wealth does, it gives us food so we can take care of the body. It gives us shelter. It gives us medicine if needed. It gives us time to enjoy. It gives us time to play. It gives us the ability to be educated. It gives us the ability to seek the hidden parts of ourself that sometimes remain unknown to us. It gives us the space to breathe mindfully, to relax, to walk on the earth barefoot, to feel, to reflect. And the four goals of life, these Purusharthas, work simultaneously together. They support each other. Without Artha, without the wealth, Dharma really kind of fractures, because Dharma is the right action. It's truth aligned with living, and it's the ethics. It's that ethical integrity in how we live our life and how we spend our money and how we spend our time and our resources and our pleasure. And when resources feel scarce, a lot of times our values can be compromised. We will do things to survive that we normally wouldn't do if those basic needs were met. People will lie to survive. People will steal to survive. People will even kill each other to survive. People will remain silent when it's time to speak up in order to stay safe. People abandon truth when they're in fight, freeze, fawn, or flight. If you're a gazelle running away from a tiger, the only thing you're thinking of is to survive, to run, right? So we need to have Dharma infused with Artha, with Kama, in order to attain the realization of love, of bliss that's never ending, that's not dependent on the external world. And when we're aligned with these things, that's when we have real choice. We have real, authentic alignment where our choices come from a higher source, a higher truth, the truth. Okay? When we're resourced, when we're well resourced materially and spiritually, we act with integrity, and we can live without fear. We can live without desperation. Wealth can actually become a protector of Dharma, of ethics, and a supporter of Kama as well. Because what is Kama? If you listen to the talk before, Kama is pleasure. It's not just hedonistic pleasure. It's the beauty of creation. It's walking barefoot on the warm sand. It's swimming in the waterfall. It's looking at the flower bloom in the morning. It's the butterflies dancing on the tree. It's the beautiful sound of the wind chimes, the pitter-patter of the rain on the roof. And it's also pleasure. It's in and through the body. God gave us 5 sense organs. And in order to do that, we need resources. So Artha supports Kama, but it should be from love, not lust love. It should be from love. The love of creation, the love of nature, the love of humanity, the love of everything. And it should come from creativity. Then that sensory enjoyment becomes our intimacy with life itself. Every sound, every taste, every touch, everything we hear, everything we smell. It's the beauty of creation. God made it all. The Vedic tradition never rejected pleasure or wealth. It understood that actually wealth and pleasure were a form of nourishment. They were God's abundance. God didn't mean for us to suffer. Our ego makes us suffer. God created this beautiful paradise for us to enjoy, and we're neglecting her creation. So when pleasure is regulated by Dharma, it restores our heart. It builds ojas. And when pleasure is supported by Artha, that material and spiritual wealth, it becomes life-giving, and we can share with others unconditionally. But if we don't have Artha well established in a balanced way, materially and spiritually, pleasure often becomes filled with guilt and shame, and it becomes compulsive. But when the Artha is sustainable and done with Dharma, pleasure becomes a conscious act. That can be resting, especially in nature, art, music, touch, celebration, dancing, sharing food with people, shared community, shared joy. These aren't indulgence. This is life. That's what we're here for. We're here for community, communion. And all of these things that are associated with Artha and Kama regulate the nervous system. And a regulated nervous system supports our immune system and our gut-brain axis, the Agni, the digestive fire, the Jatara Agni, the Manasa Agni, the mental fire that processes life's experiences. And when they're regulated, the heart opens, and that becomes the door to freedom, the door to moksha, to knowing the self. That's what moksha is. It's liberation. It doesn't mean you leave your body and dwell in some heavenly realm somewhere else. It's right here in your own heart. It's the freedom from ignorance. It's the freedom from not knowing who we are and not knowing our purpose, not knowing Dharma, Artha, Kama, and moksha. And when that heart space is blossomed, we're free from suffering. That's the truth. That's what these four Purusharthas, these four goals of life do. This is the architecture of human life. And they're not stages that we graduate one to the other. They're simultaneous. They all have to exist simultaneously. They're simultaneous needs to live in truth, to live in love, to have the resources to do that, and to live inside of the self as self. If one of them collapses, just like four legs on a table, the whole system becomes either strained or collapses. All of this exists because we exist. Embodiment is not a problem. Life is not a problem. The body is not an obstacle to awakening. It's the field in which it awakens. And again, the wealth provides us a stability for us to be able to do that. And so many traditions I've seen, I'm not sure they're actual spiritual traditions. I think they're more religious control mechanisms, but they bypass the wealth part. But when we're in survival, when we're in fear, the ability to actually want to transcend, it shouldn't come from desperation. It should come from wanting to know the self, from love. The practice should be sincere. It should be honest. It should be devotion-based, not from life sucks and I want to get out of here, which is what so much of it does. I see it all the time. Life is suffering. Life is nothing but pain. And I want to transcend and get out of here and never come back to the earth again, never take birth again in the material world. Go live in some heavenly realm, because humans have made the material world a living hell for themselves. But that's not why it's here. It's here for love and joy and celebration. I'm very excited to share with you Real Mushrooms, the sponsor of the Awakened Living podcast. I use their mushrooms every single day because they've genuinely changed my life. I trust them because they have 50 years of expertise and use 100% organic mushrooms, 0 grains, 0 fillers, which are found in most common mushroom products on the market. They use just real, organic, clinically tested mushrooms. Every morning, I use lion's mane to sharpen my thinking. I use cordyceps to give me the clean energy I need for the day. I use chaga to strengthen my immune system. And when stress hits, and it does, I use reishi to bring me back to center. With their products, you actually feel the difference. Through the end of March, Real Mushrooms gives Awakened Living with Nibodhi podcast listeners 25% off their entire first order. Use the code AWAKEN25 at checkout to get 25% off your first purchase. You can find their link in the show notes or visit nibodhi.com/mushrooms to get yours today. We have to avoid extremes in order to live this balanced life. Number one is we need to avoid the attachment to our wealth as our identity. And we should be able to have relative happiness and contentment and joy regardless of how much numbers are in the bank account. And also, we need to really avoid the rejection of wealth as being impure or unholy. Both are constructs of the human mind. They have nothing to do with actual truth. So our goal is to live in balance with this and allowing the wealth of the universe, the abundance of the universe, to flow through us, not into us where it becomes like a stagnant pond and builds scum and mold and mosquitoes. It should flow through us. We're just the vessel. Life should flow through us. Love, beauty, art, music, poetry, podcasts, and money. And that's where the Dharma comes in, because how wealth is earned really matters. And how we hold that wealth matters. How we use that wealth matters. Okay? So if we are gaining our wealth through harming another or harming the earth, that destabilizes life. That destabilizes our heart. It destabilizes the mind. It destabilizes consciousness. It destabilizes the community. And that's what we see in the world. Most of the wealth, I would say 75% of the wealth in the world, is earned from adharmic acts. Because in the Kali Yuga, it said that there's 75% of the actions are adharmic actions. And so if that's true, then I would associate that same thing. But if we gain our wealth through integrity, through dharmic acts that are uplifting the community, it creates more dharma. And that's why we're here. There's a saying, we all do well when we all do well. If we're not thinking individualistically and we're thinking communally, that there's one of us and that what we do to each other, what we do to ourselves, what we do to the earth, what we do to each other affects every other person on the planet. If there's one person on the planet suffering, on some level, we feel that as our own suffering and our own pain. It's kind of unfathomable that there's so much wealth here, that anyone goes hungry every day, that every person on the planet is not getting at least one meal a day and getting the medicine they need or being held every day. But that's what happens when greed takes over, when accumulation happens without it being spread, when the river gets stagnant, when it dams up. Accumulation without purpose creates major amounts of fear, and it's violence. It's a form of violence. Because under financial stress, we're in survival. And again, what we will do to survive is not necessarily dharmic. The mind becomes very narrow. And it's not a moral failure. It's biology. We're designed to survive. So if we have the wealth, it reduces that threat, right? If the basics are taken care of, then we can focus on all the other super, super important things, like service. When our wealth aligns with Dharma, our heart opens, our heart softens, and we want to serve. We want to take our wealth, at least a portion of it, whether it's 1% or 5% or 10%, a little bit of our wealth that we earn each day, each paycheck, each year should be used to serve someone who is less fortunate than us. If we don't do this, our heart becomes compromised. And if you don't have financial resources to help someone, we have a body. We can go to the homeless shelter and help prepare food or feed food. There's always something we can do. Just look in your community for something to do. The greatest wealth, truly, from the Vedic perspective, is a heart filled with love, a heart filled with the desire to serve, a heart filled with integrity and honesty and compassion and empathy. This is the true intimacy with the beloved. This is the true joy we get. This is actually pleasure. There's a saying that when we feed someone, we give flowers to someone, or we do something good, our hearts are filled up. Through service, our hearts become filled. It's called seva, selfless service. But truly, our hearts become so filled that we want to do more and more of it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go out and try. Go to your local homeless shelter. Even just go grab a bag and walk through the park and pick up trash. It becomes a joyous occasion. And this becomes pleasure, in a dharmic way. It restores the 4 Purusharthas to their proper place. And when our heart is open like this, through service, through feeding people, through whatever it is that we choose to do in service, whether it's helping the whales or the rainforest, it doesn't matter. Give in service. Make sure it's a dharmic company that's not hoarding the money and that they're actually doing what they're saying. But life becomes a celebration this way. It supports our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And then when we're in this bhava, when we're in this attitude of love and service like this, that's real wisdom. When serving and loving and taking care of each other and the planet is the most joyous thing you can do, that's wisdom. And that leads us to freedom. That leads us to moksha. That leads us to the liberation from ignorance. But that requires sustained attention. That requires self-inquiry. That requires practice, daily practice. That requires integrating the whole. So again, Artha supports the ability to do the self-inquiry, to do the practice, to integrating all of this, instead of spending its time scanning for threats. The body stays tense when we're threatened. But I believe that, in my experience, is that the more we serve, the more the universal abundance of love and material resources will flow through us so that we can share them. Because who are we actually sharing it with? We're actually sharing it with ourselves. Focusing on the material wealth, but focusing on the spiritual wealth is easy also, right? The inner resources are equally as important as the outer resources. Having that faith, having the trust in the universe. That's real wisdom, having trust and faith in the universe. I mean, we live in a world. So our material world, this earth has been here a little over 4 billion years. Humans have only been here 300,000 years. My understanding is the Milky Way galaxy about 4.6 billion years, and the universe 14.5 billion years. And what we know of the universe with our human intellect and all of our scientific gadgets is less than 2% of the universe, so we think. And we're constantly finding more and more. So what we actually know is very little. What is worth knowing is love. So if you have money and no discernment, what's the purpose of that money? If you have material wealth but no spiritual wealth and you're not sharing it, what is the purpose? The inner and the outer need to grow together. That's how it goes. How we earn the money matters. How we share the money matters. All of these things matter. We have to have the inner order correct, the inner order in our relationships. And if we have difficulty with that, my way of regulation is the Divine Mother, is Shakti. Because it's Shakti. We've talked recently about this, about the divine masculine, the divine feminine, Shakti and Shiva, the art of proper relationship with ourself, with community, with the world. Shakti is everything we see, everything we experience in the material world. Shakti reorganizes the Divine Mother. When we look to the example of the Divine Mother, her goal is to remove the suffering. What mother wants her child to suffer? So when we pray to the Divine Mother, when we look to the Divine Mother for examples, we can reestablish our identity as divine beings, as children of the divine. We look in our life at what is actually worthy of our energy and our attention, what is worthy of spending our life force on. Because the society is telling us that our worth is based on how much clothes we have, how much money we have, what we look like. But our worth has nothing to do with that. And it's also in the spiritual tradition, so many times it's saying, people say that our worth is based on how much we sacrificed, how much hours of seva we did, how much of a renunciate we can be, how little we can have. It's neither one of those things. It's not how much or how little we have. Both are struggles, and neither one of them are virtues. What is really worth having is love and devotion. Devotion supports life. Dharma and Artha is focused devotion. And to do that, I love doing self-inquiry. I do the Atma Vicharya all the time. I question my mind all the time. And asking ourselves about what is right, what is the right relationship. So these are a few questions that really are important to ask on the spiritual path. And if we want to really embody the Purusharthas to their glorious capacity, and live a life that's just awake, an awakened living life with love and joy in just about every action we do. We need to ask ourselves if our relationship with the material money, with the financial support in the material world is coming from truth or it's coming from fear. Does your relationship with money support truth or does it support fear in yourself? And then really, depending on what you're doing in the material world, what your job is your method of earning money supporting your nervous system? Is it calming and joyous and supportive of life and you feel fulfilled by it? Or does it agitate your nervous system? Are you constantly stressed, constantly under pressure, constantly in fear of something? And then the next question is kind of in alignment with that as well. Is your way of earning money, or does your level of wealth, the amount of wealth you have materially or spiritually, support your values, what you hold to be valuable, your ethics, your what Dharma is to you? Is it supporting your inner values or does it distort them? Our wealth, our kama, our pleasure, our wealth should be supportive of our values, of our goals, of our truth. And this is, I think, probably the most valuable question we should ask ourselves. Are we using our resources to nourish life beyond just ourselves? Do we use it in service of something beyond ourselves, of the earth, of tribes, of indigenous people, of selfless service organizations. So these are very important questions that we should examine. And if we're examining ourselves, if we're examining consciousness, if we're examining the way we're living and truly want to live the most fulfilled life, we need to ask these things. But remember, these Purusharthas, especially Artha, the wealth, and Kama, they're not against spirituality. They're not against self-realization or moksha or liberation. But they need to be applied with intelligence, with a sense of Dharma. And when we use our wealth to support truth and pleasure and liberation, now it's sacred. Now it's divine. And we're using the material world for what it's supposed to be used for. We have to remember, we came here with absolutely nothing, and we're going the exact same way. You take nothing with you other than the amount of love in your heart, what actions you did while you were here, how much joy you gave to another, how much you took or how much you left behind. We should attempt to leave more than we take. It's actually impossible because everything we're giving back was already here. We're just recycling, reusing, and hopefully reducing the amount of material resources we use. But it was all the Divine Mothers. It all belongs to Mother Earth. She supports us through our whole life. She provides our food. She provides our wealth. She provides our pleasure. She provides the body, the 5 elements, the great cosmic 5 elements. We came in as a soul into a material world where we're completely dependent on the 5 elements, on the Divine Mother, on the Shakti. So let us use our time here to give more love, to fill our hearts with love and express it in everything we do. This is awakened living. This is awakened wealth. This is awakened enjoyment. This is embodied awakened spirituality. Let this conversation, let these questions sit, breathe into yourselves. Examine how our relationship with the wealth is, the material wealth, the spiritual wealth. Are we using it in a way that feels so aligned with our truth and our hearts and our joy and our purpose here? Remember, the purpose of life is to lead a life full of purpose, but that needs to be filled with joy, with love, and with wealth, and with pleasure, and with knowledge of the self. So go for it. If today's episode felt supportive and nourishing to you, please share it with someone who you feel may also benefit from it. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like it, leave a review. And until next week, fill your hearts with love, express it in everything you do, and be the change that you want to see in the world. Be the light you want to see in the world. Share the love that you want to see in the world. Namaste.